What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. I'm still in a weird mood, don't want to make videos, and I'm not sure why. But that doesn't matter. Today we are reviewing and reflecting on my history of e-boying. Now that we are picking up the guns again. Some strategies, stories, new and old, a bit about my major life relationships, the two of them. It's weird trying to get back on your bullshit. Because you spend years, you grow, and you think you're maturing, but in reality, you're getting weaker and further from the path. You could look at it as maturity is degradation, but it almost feels like maturity is impurity. You operated better and more naturally as a beast of id. And it sort of makes sense because if you want things, if you want to get what you want, it only makes sense that the the thing that exists to get what it wants is better at getting what it wants than you are. And I think the first thing to keep in mind that I learned as a youngin' and then unlearned and suffered for it, and I think I know what happened with that, by the way. I think ever since the end of my last major life relationship, I've been pursuing that close to marriage state. And that does you no favors when you aren't close to marriage. It might even do you no favors when you are close to marriage. Anyway, the first thing to keep in mind is you are interested in understanding and enjoying women, not trying to develop a connection with woman. It's a different mindset. And it's not a strictly leaking everywhere polyamory mindset. Rather, you're fascinated with the way the idea of woman manifests in women. Femininity can take a bunch of different forms, and they're all interesting. They're all enjoyable. And they all serve to help you understand this abstract general idea or form of femininity, the feminine. And that idea is what you're getting at. With women as conduits, not focusing on and trying to build a thing with this singular woman. That's like trying to look at yourself in a mirror using only one shard of a mirror. And when you look at it this way, it does two things. One, it creates a level of detachment you need, and it also allows you to commit to something. Because as a dude, it's hard not to want to commit to something. It's like when you're learning boxing. You are not trying to hit the thing in front of you, you're trying to hit the thing behind that thing. That's what gives you force. And when I was a young fella, I enjoyed seeing all the different ways women could be. You're enjoying seeing all the different sides of your abstract wife. And because you're looking for all these sides, you're always cycling, and a loss doesn't really feel like a loss because there are so many other sides or fragments out there. And they're all wonderful, or at least interesting. So, starting at the beginning, one of my pals got me on Kick, which it might still exist. I'm sure it does. But Kick was a messaging app that had lots of other little apps inside it. I think you had to download them, I'm not sure, but there were lots of them. And I think that's where I met, or I'm pretty sure that's where I met my first girlfriend. And it was growing up in this internet age is fucked. I'm glad I got to experience young love. I wish it had been in real life, but at the same time, does it really matter? We're products of interesting times. I don't hate it. And I was a mid teens guy dating a woman pushing 20. So while I don't know everything that went on with the fried by fluoride situation, from what I've gathered, he was in the situation I was in, except reversed. And she cheated on him, and then he said suspect aggressive things while drunk. So when people were accusing him of certain crimes, I thought it was a -8 situation, which that's a completely separate thing. -8 animator. From what I understand, not a bad guy, didn't do anything, and ended up seeking help and benefiting from it. I have sympathy for Minecraft YouTubers who don't do fucked up shit. It's really not fun. I mean, I couldn't with how important size is to me. I couldn't imagine that being your thing and then just having to live with that. It's like the psychopaths need advocates thing. Anyway, I thought people were saying fried by fluoride was a -8, but worse, and then that's not what it was. And although that's still what it sounds like he got into was not ideal, they made it sound so much worse than it was. And fried by fluoride continues to be until I guess something happens. We'll see, I don't think it will. The best in the incel core space in terms of music. And tourists, they need to leave. Incel core is for dudes and lesbians. Anyway, I like a hag, and that started early. She was all kinds of she was all kinds of fucked up though. It's sounding like our genre of dude are are obligated to date fat, red-haired, wide but flat-assed anime women. At least once in your life, you are obligated to. This is Borderlands. That's unlocking your action skill. And she ended up cheating on me too, which turned out to be a good thing. I have no idea how long I would have stewed in that miserable shit. Anyway, I used applications on Kick called Hey Hey at first, and then it turned into Heya, and then I think there was a period in which Hey Hey and Heya were both online at the same time. And what you did, it was totally unmoderated. Well, not totally unmoderated, but this was earlier, not early internet, but earlier internet on a small app, within a small app. The moderation wasn't shit, and I've always referred to it as the Wild West because these days you need to put in dating apps or whatever, you need to put your face, you need verification, you need this, you need that. On these applications you could post whatever, and dicks would get removed, but you saw a lot of dicks. I wasn't old enough to use Pal Talk, but it had Pal Talk vibes. And I think Interpals works similarly now, but I'm sure it doesn't. Very brief time I used Interpals, and I don't remember much of anything about it other than the website was really ugly. Anyway, you post a picture of whatever, and then that picture would feed into three scrolling columns of pictures, and you click on a picture you like, and you just message somebody. No swiping, no anything. You post a picture, you expect to be messaged, you get messaged or you message people. And here was my strategy. I would either select a woman I thought looked good and message her some bullshit philosophical question, or I would feed a bullshit or a picture of a bullshit philosophical question into the columns. and you cycled through people. Women weren't any nicer back then than they are now, but you could go through so many quickly, and that was what was important. You get. It's weird. I wish I had a. I mean, I can do rejection. I wish I had much better real life rejection tolerance. When I was younger, I got rejected so often, shit on so often, it didn't mean anything to me. And it didn't mean anything to me because when you're doing this, you think, or when you start asking women out or just talking to them, whatever, if you don't get any successes, you begin to associate that rejection with pain, lots of negative feelings. But if you get even a few bites, the pain numbs out because the rewards are much stronger, and you associate rejection, which you become numb to, with the rewards, which are always something. And these women and I would get to talking. And this is where size comes in, which I mentioned last time. I felt creepy about it at first. Looking back on it, it felt creepy. But you get conditioned to think getting what you want is creepy, when you shouldn't give a shit because you're getting what you want. I mean, what's the alternative? The alternative is you don't feel creepy and you never get what you want. You sit at $0 instead of paying $2 to earn 10. And what I would do is frame a philosophical or moral quandary around it became, if would you still love me if I were a worm thing. And I don't remember the exact way I would do it. I used ants. It would always be something along the lines of, if I were an ant and you could crush me and essentially kill a human being and nobody would ever know, would you do it just to see how it felt? And the answers themselves didn't matter because you're not looking for one answer. Again, you're enjoying femininity. One of the things I like about size is every woman approaches size differently. One of the things you realize when you are interested in size and you're dealing with women is a lot of the times they'll feel concerned they're doing something wrong or they don't understand it. And they don't understand it, but the benefit is that's what you're looking for. You're looking for humanity. You're looking for womanness, interacting with size. So, not understanding it or doing something wrong is oftentimes a benefit. So you get the, yes, I would kill you, and then that becomes questions about morality or what life and death mean and all this bullshit, all the while you're still sticking to this ant size framing. And this is another thing. Size used to not be anywhere near as popular as it was. Bitches had no idea what was going on. And again, that feels creepy to say that you're taking advantage of someone's not knowing what's happening. But I don't care. Or I mean, now I do care a little bit. But I didn't care then, and I need not to care again. And then some women you'd get the no, but they're still engaging with the scenario, the framing. And then occasionally you would get women who knew what was up. That's that's actually how my first girlfriend and I got together, was she called me on it and I admitted to it, and then we were cool. But in this wide nut chasing, you end up getting to know lots of these women very well, including once you clue them into what you're into. And there were levels of engagement with these different women. There was a selection of women who were kinda dumb, utterly unremarkable, and one of them introduced me to one of her friends who was even dumber. And it's weird playing memory association because you realize how far back this goes. I think I was playing Fallout 3 when I was talking with those two. Because, and I'm probably wrong, but for some reason I have this distinct memory of Tenpenny Tower while I'm talking to this woman and marveling at how goddamn stupid she is, talking about washing dishes, I think. And I remember her face clear as day because it's the sort of quintessentially unremarkable face. The face of a woman who is interested in washing dishes. And not, there's no mental illness excuse. This is just dumb. And I'm being mean, but it is the case. It's like someone leads you into a back room to meet with someone, and they're nobody important. But this was the class of sexually unremarkable women. They were remarkable in their unremarkability. One side of femininity to appreciate. Then there were women who were really big into politics. This happened closer to the 2016 election. Because I remember one woman was really into Bernie Sanders. And I was I was chuddy at at the time. And I remember probing her for Bernie Sanders for Bernie Sanders positions about anything. And she kept redirecting me to the website. She kept redirecting me to his website, and she kept repeating he cares about the issues. And I don't remember the mechanics of our conversations, but I remember I would say something or explain something or refute something and ask about something, and then she would go, yeah, he cares about that, and he cares about the issues. And she had a really great ass. The Al Pacino, the Heat. And if there was the lowest ring, which the dumb women were on, but there were other genres of women in there, these were the women who could engage with size scenarios very literally or very basically, and they had a short shelf life. Then there was another class of women whom this political woman was in. There was another woman. There were a few of them. And interestingly, they looked the best and in some cases engaged with size better than anyone else did, but not a lot. And once they were aware I was into it, there would be down periods, and that's why it's important to cycle, because then they become interested again once they realize they're losing you. It's rope-a-dope bullshit. And after taking a clarity piss, or while taking a clarity piss, I realized it's interesting because they know what gets your attention. So if you make getting your attention be giving you something you want, because they want your attention, they will either get conditioned to give you what you want or to fuck off. And the thing is, that's not a mechanism you want your primary or focus woman to follow. That is a tool you deploy with a certain sort of woman. And we'll get to your primary women later. Or actually right now, because we're getting into primary and main. They're two separate categories. Primary women give you what you want naturally. That's their natural mode. And it's not like there is one sort of woman who falls into your primary category. All different sorts of women can be in this category. The key is they make your interest their interest. And in doing that, they have your attention a lot more. And you end up speaking with them a lot more. And the main one I think of in this category was a typical X3 nuzzles you woman, but she was just filthy. while maintaining this girl likes waffles thing. Oh, and that's the other thing I forgot to mention. When you take clarity pisses, some answers come to you and others leave you. You think you aren't in a pond, but you are, and ponds are always way smaller than you think they are. Never ever forget that. The world is so much smaller than you think it is. And something an ENTJ ASPD dude said to me one time that it's I mean, it's one of the fun parts of life. Life will give you answers early, way before you understand them or know them, rather. One of the things he said to me was women really like talking. So when you're dealing with women, it's important to keep in mind you'll probably run into the same woman a few times. And also, because she's yapping to her buddies, there will be other women who hate your guts or are saying whatever the group is supposed to be saying, but then some, well, all will have you on their radar now. But some will be interested in you, and you might find some strays arrive at your doorstep in secret. Whenever you're dealing with a woman and anything sexual is going on, just be aware the same way you are engaging with one fragment of femininity, you are also engaging with one fragment of a group of women. Don't think maybe, it's a definitely. And you don't need to do anything, but you do need to be aware. Women you end up engaging with sometimes will know you better than you think they do, or could. And that's another thing. Women are always playing some kind of game. All the time, all of them, always. Little protean hive minds. Anyway, this one primary woman, really the only primary woman I can remember at the moment, I kind of wanted to get with her, but something prevented that. Something in me prevented that, and then something externally prevented that. She had, again, shallow pond. Everyone who doesn't know anyone ends up knowing everyone, or knowing someone who knows someone else. Some shit was going on, but she almost always showed up in the way I needed her to show up, which was sexually. But in that, we ended up having a nice, well, a thing. And that's when I met the INTP woman. So what set her apart from everybody else? And this was before I knew, I knew what typology was, and I knew she was an INTP, but I didn't realize the gravity of that at that time. Now in these videos, I found a dude I like watching who the act can be a little bit much sometimes, but all of his, well, not all of his information, because you need, that's another thing, when you're strategizing, you need to build your strategy around yourself, but what you're strategizing around are fundamentals or truths, and this guy has a pretty good bead on some of the truths. His strategy is very different from mine, but the thing we're looking at and figuring out how to deal with, the same. And one of the things he talks about is cooperation. Women who really want you are very cooperative. You don't need to do a lot. But primary women are very cooperative. So what sets a primary woman apart from your main women or your main woman? You could call it an X factor, but really, I think it's a combination of your sexual chemistry, your humor, and your levels of cynicism or optimism. We were pretty close in all three. The thing that ended up splitting us up well, there were a few things that split us up, but we could satisfy one another sexually, but we weren't into what the other was into. Rather, we just understood each other well enough we could give one another what we wanted, which is good, which is great. You learn about things dating your own type. You don't realize how sexually titillating the INTP analytical microscope laser dissecting laser is until you've had it aimed at you. I think everyone should date their own type at least once so they can get a read on what their strengths are. But we could satisfy one another sexually, that was great, but it got demoralizing realizing we both were subs and we didn't enjoy, well, we enjoyed pleasing one another, but in that cold analytical satisfaction way, not the grunting and sweating and leaking way, or the long distance relationship equivalent. I'm a virgin. I am a pure unstained flower. And I don't think we were ever official. But and that's weird the way life works. Shit doesn't line up. I felt comfortable loving her at one moment, and then I didn't feel that way, and then she felt comfortable loving me. And this went on for, I think, on and off a little over 2 years in total, if I'm remembering correctly. I didn't like how passive she was, and she did a few hurtful things to me. I don't remember exactly what those were. I remember one of them was we had an opportunity to meet up, and we didn't. And she kind of snuck it by me, too. I found out the entire time we're talking, you're less than an hour away from me. In a really cool hangout city. And I didn't know until after she was gone, and that hurt my feelings a bit. But there were other things. Anyway, I remember antagonizing her to try to get her to stand up for herself, and she wouldn't do it, and then that was the end of that for a while, and then we briefly got back into communication, but nothing with her had changed other than she went into a mild whoring phase, and this is a curious thing. She tried to use that against me. I remember she vividly described getting fucked by this one dude who I guess was trying to position himself to be her boyfriend. But when that didn't faze me, no, that's what it was, right? She was some kind of Christian, and he was some kind of Christian, dream guy, whatever. And she talked about getting, she phrased it in a stupid way. He left her virginity in a pool on her bed or something like that. And then I started talking or asking her if he spanked her with a Bible or choked her with rosary beads, shit like that. And then, when she realized I was enjoying this Christian hypocrisy at her expense, she walked it back. And then it became, no, he just fingered me. And that was I wish I knew what to make of that. I mean, I can feel what that was, what that all was. What she was doing, and then how it backfired and how she walked it back. I know emotionally what that was, but I wish I could articulate it better. When she tried to make herself seem taken to hurt me, and then I wasn't hurt, she tried to make herself seem untaken, and she wasn't trying to hurt me. And I think it didn't hurt me because I saw that coming. I knew, well, she was sheltered growing up, and I knew she was going to discover boys other than me, and go fucking wild, which she did. So, on one level, I saw it coming, and it was so inevitable that I had totally expected it. And on the other side, Christians are degenerates. I mean, it registered on a does it matter level. Like watching two dogs fuck level. You see what's happening, but does it affect you? What I'm feeling right now is a level of sadness and disgust. General sadness and disgust at women. Because it's funny, I made that video yesterday and as I was making that video, I didn't clock how fucked it was. I engaged in dirty talk with a woman who had a boyfriend and supposed to love him to this extent. And I think I didn't register that as a sad or a bad thing because she was disgusting. And I think I'm feeling that here too. And I'm sad and disgusted because your major life relationship people are sad and disgusting. I took another clarity piss. What bothers me is there is no such thing as purity in you or in anyone else. And even if you decide right now to try to be pure, you still aren't. And also, the people you're dealing with, they won't make that decision, and even if they do, they will backslide on it. And that's just sad. One of my favorite memories with her was helping each other with our homework. That was the level of cuteness we had together. And that sort of thing can't just be because you're disgusting and she's disgusting and everyone is disgusting. I suppose the lesson here is to enjoy these moments because you will treasure them, but don't cling to them and don't seek them. Anyway, when we split up the second time, I don't remember exactly what was going down. We had some kind of disagreement, and I think I was drunk on a bus, and whatever she was saying it was so disconnected from what she was that it just was meaningless. So I started sending her Christmas song lyrics. And I don't think it was anywhere close to Christmas. It was just this whole big emotional thing she was having was so false that I might as well be singing a Christmas song to her in response. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I went on hiatus. That's around when I got into MBTI, big into MBTI, because I thought the only way I'll find someone I can love is if I can find another INTP who is different. Oh, it's weird retracing your steps through memory land. That's when I I stopped looking for INTPs, I got into INFJs, and then I met an INFJ woman, I reconnected, I think, or it might have been reconnected by that point, I don't remember, but reconnected with an INFJ friend, and that started the pattern of, this is a pattern that still goes on. You select a type, and then you're dating a woman of that type, and you're friends with a man of that type. I've done that a few times now. And then they both used and discarded me in really ugly ways that I don't think I ever recovered from. If nothing else, I managed to take an ugly chunk out of the INFJ dude on the way out. I hope you're still attached to a friend group that mocked you at your bachelor's party so bad you were crying in a hotel room, and then had the nerve to decide you want to confront this friend group that's been abusing you. So you contact me, you're drunk. I get drunk because I realize, okay, this is about to go down and I'm gonna need to have dudes back because I know he's a pussy around these dudes who abuse him. I'll need to take the lead. And then he uses that opportunity to mock me and shit on me with them in some sort of faux bonding thing. I hope your friends have continued to mistreat you. I hope your wife left you. I mean, what the INFJ woman did was ugly, but what the dude did was vile. Maybe that's why I stopped, or what helped me stop even wanting friends past a point. You go in to take heavy fire for someone who can't or won't do it themselves but is called to you because they need your help to do this, and then they shoot you in the back and laugh about it. That's just awful. And it sucks too because I do a lot of fucked up stuff. I'm not a good person. And I don't know why people engage with me and then they expect me to be a good person and I tell them I'm not a good person and they continue to insist I'm a good person and then they're surprised when they find out I am a bad person. With that dude, I'm pretty sure I did everything right. And when you endeavor to do everything right, that's how it ends up. The better a person you tried to be in any situation, the worse it will turn out. And you should, I'm not saying you shouldn't, you should continue to endeavor to do the best you can by people or in situations, whatever. But that is only so you can learn that you shouldn't do that. And you will not learn until you learn it the hard way. And as I said, I got over, or I mean, I got over the INFJ woman in the sense the scar healed. I understand what happened, and I will not be making that mistake ever again. Lots of other sorts of mistakes to make. That mistake, never again. Healed. Wounded, but healed. Whereas with that dude, I don't think about that very often because of how much that hurt. But, god damn, that still hurts. Anywho, that was a detour. But, well, no, it wasn't a total detour. Because I met the INFJ via Omegle. And I was doing weird, fucked up sex stuff on Omegle too. Sneaky sex stuff. I don't know if they're still doing this, but did you know that at one time, Omegle had college-specific chats? As in, you could, I think if you gave them your student ID, you could meet or Omegle with people on your college campus. That's not how I met her, but that was a neat feature. And then there was this I think was more attached to the, remember Yik Yak? I think that's what it's called. I didn't use it much, but that was another one. I will say with the INFJ, and there is a pattern here. And that's another thing. INFJs are dreadful because unlike most other types, they can feel multiple things fully and simultaneously. She was into me, but she was also using me, and she did also resent me for things she said she was okay with. Anyway, when a woman wants you, they will be forwardly sexual. You don't have to do a lot sexual. And that makes me think of that woman, whom in my notes now I'm calling Beans and Rice. Her shit was fucked up because she was forwardly sexual, but in a dissociative identity disorder way. She was forward with the decoy sexuality, and then hyper-protective of her true sexuality. Which, again, reasons for that kind of makes sense, though it is annoying. And I had a hard time putting my finger on why it was annoying. One of the reasons it's annoying is anyone with the gall to assume they are, by default, in any way special, a prize to be won people need to prove themselves to, that's annoying. But it was also annoying probably because it indicated her level of actual interest. Which is to say, if she's not throwing you the best of what she has almost for free, or totally for free, or even at her expense, then she's not into you at the level you would want someone to be into you. But that's why you need a rotation, that's why you need to exercise your options so you aren't stuck in a race you will never win. You need to have racers on your track. You don't want to be a racist on another person's track. Anywho, that's where the ENTJ era came in. I got obsessed with ENTJs, started talking to lots of them, hanging around ENTJ communities, mostly on the Reddit, and once again, had a number of women you're speaking with. Now, because all ENTJs are mildly autistic, the rings and levels of engagement were both weirder and more defined, but it seems like ENTJs fight with the cages they create. And by this point, my game was degrading anyway because I cared about women as people. Big mistake. I think that's around when I got arrested. Or it was close. There were a few bad situations leading up to that arrest. But there were two primary groups. One were women who were like monkeys trying to hump a doorknob. We want to be connected, but the way they want to connect and the way I want to connect didn't line up. So there's just a lot of energy, and ENTJs are weird because in some fashions they're very adaptable, but in emotional matters they are not adaptable at all, at least by default. So that group, and then another group, women who are interested but also on some bullshit that runs so deep neither of you are aware of what's really going on. I've never watched Spartacus. Is it a Spartacus situation? Nobody knows who Spartacus is. They have no idea what's going on. You find out later. One of the women I ghosted because, again, the timeline is fucked up, but and it's actually funny. One of the well, no, that was not one of the sociopaths. One of the non-sociopaths in this recent sociopath investigation did exactly what I used to do when I would get fucked up on stuff. Whenever you would have a really bad moment with a substance, I mean really bad moment, there is an urge or an instinct to cut everybody out of your life. And that's another thing. People are saying cut people off now, which is a dumb way to say it because it's like you're cutting them off from a supply. Do you feel you're a supply of anything valuable or useful? Cutting out works a lot better. Dude did that to me, which was why that didn't bug me because I knew what that was, and I've done that to people. And I hope that dude's doing okay. Anyway, I did that to pretty much everybody I was speaking with. But two... Oh, no. Well, okay. Timeline is all fucked up. Anyway, came back to two of them. One who was in the game playing confused camp. She let me know how much she cared about me by brutalizing me emotionally when I came back. No understanding or care for what I was dealing with. which it makes sense to have that reaction if you got ghosted by someone you really had an emotional connection with. But she was one of these fuckers who acts like she doesn't feel anything. It was very similar to the what this beans and rice bitch was doing, but the ENTJ version. So tragically, biologically, organically amped up, and she attacked me as if someone like her partner had ghosted her. And that's another thing I thought about the last time I took a clarity piss, which I'm going to have to take another clarity piss here in a moment, because my throat is killing me. I'm talking so much, drinking lots of water. Women are trying to get... They're trying to get you to commit the most using the least. And once they know you need them, and at that time she was someone I did need, or at least I believed I needed, because I thought we were close, you know, not romantic, but close. God damn. I don't think it was anything she said that hurt me. Rather, it was the hostility with which she came at me, knowing I was vulnerable. That's what hurt. And why do you put up walls? Why do you not get attached to people, not get close to people, don't want friends, don't want to feel anything for people? The idea is, if you don't, if getting hurt hurts, the way not to get hurt is not to let yourself be vulnerable. Which is one of the reasons when I'm fucking around doing shit that makes me look vulnerable or pathetic these days, I don't feel bad about it, because if it were an actual in to hurt me, either I wouldn't know about it or I would be hiding it. I hide lots of shit. If I am open with and talking about something, I'm not that worried about it. Or maybe I am, but I don't know I am. Whatever. Who gives a shit? But the other woman I came back to was the woman whom I got the closest to marriage I ever have with anyone else. And I think that's part of the... I said it earlier, but part of the degradation is getting closer to marriage with each major life relationship, so you start adjusting your strategy to marriage, not to the strategy that got you to those points in the first place. And I'll always remember well, there are a bunch of things about that relationship I'll always remember, but I'll always remember how she came on to me initially, which was, she said I was interesting, and then she asked me how many times a day I jerked off. A woman after my heart. And literally, too, because she got it. The second thing she said, the second thing I remember, or will always remember, is the moment we became properly official, within which she said, I think I like you, and if you do anything to hurt me, I'll shoot you. Anyway, with her, further evidence of the... If a woman is really into you, she will give you exactly what you want, with minimal effort. And the reason she was above the monkeys humping doorknobs was she had the savvy to, even though she didn't understand it, she had the savvy and the desire, self-motivated desire, to try to figure it out. And she got further than most people did. Another clarity piss. I think we're 3 hours in now. I don't like that things need to be this way, because I like women. It's sad that this is the way things need to be. Anyway, you know that she loved you. And you know that because she was dismissive avoidant, and the dismissive avoidance started to come out only once we started closing in on the idea of marriage, particularly this kids thing, which she was resistant to for reasons that, I mean, a number of reasons, and none of which I could understand or appreciate at the time. She probably had ASPD. One, she probably also had some -8 interests that she repressed. But again, we talked about that a while ago, but that's so sad and fucked. And I could feel it, but I didn't pick up on it, it didn't click. She had a bunch of good reasons for not wanting to have children. But then she played it in the worst way possible. And that's probably because she knew if she held firm on her decision not to have kids, that was going to be the end of it. But the way these sorts of people work, there's no. I mean, that is so not an option for this not to work that I'm guessing she malfunctioned, and that's why the parting was as mutually traumatic as it was, the worst possible note to end on. Salted fields are the worst. Even if the fields weren't salted, though, there was no way we were going to get back together, as long as she was determined not to have children, no matter how valid her reasons. But it's still rough. But see, this is what I'm talking about with you love all your exes, at least the ones you took seriously. Because in spite of reality itself, in spite of anything anyone can say or frame anything, or in spite of what things are, that level of love is so pure. You, it's like a peak that is so high, nothing can undo that. At least what it was. And I think why I've been so fucked up for these years is the fact you don't. I mean, there's no fast track back up to a peak like that. And there's no nobling your way to a peak like that. You are back down in square one, and you need to act like a square one dog. One of the few instances you need to take lessons from your younger self, because your younger self had this shit figured out. Older you has a better idea of how to handle the advanced levels, but younger you intuitively understood and worked the lower levels. And there's no, I'm too good for that, or that's not the way I want to do things anymore. No. Nope. That's what you need to do. And that's what we will do. Maybe in the process we will learn some nuances in the level 1 shit we didn't we did as youngins, but didn't understand so well, or didn't have the capacity to understand as well. And I have ideas. I've been looking at all the ways YouTubers like fucking around with one another. And on some level, you're aware of that, but you aren't aware of how common it is on all levels, including the smaller levels. And I have plans for ways to do this. I wish. I mean, it's funny because even back in the day, when you could be the most direct, you still couldn't be totally direct. Which is fucked. But there is a way to reach or approach that level of directness. As direct as you can be with the woman game. Sometime in the near future, expect there to be a channel Discord server, so women have a way to get close to me without their thinking I realize they are getting close to me. I mean, to a lesser degree, that's what the studies have been for. I mean, that's part of what they've been for. It's funny, you end up doing the same shit always, that has always been, in part, what the studies were for. Giving certain people the opportunity to get closer to me in a way they felt comfortable with, or believed I wouldn't see what they were doing. Now, we'll just say fuck it and make it as directly indirect as possible. This is the second time we've gone Senator Geary mode. Some people like to play games. You have yours, I have mine. Whatever the line is. It disgusts me, but if this is the direction things need to go, then this is the direction we'll go. And if you're a lurking woman, and this is the way you end up approaching me, that's cool. We can do that, but I want two things from you. One, I want you to feel mildly ashamed of yourself because you're taking this pussy route. We both know the score, but you still are going this way instead of being direct. I want you to feel the level of shame for yourself, the level of embarrassment, really, you should feel. And I said two things, but I guess I don't really want anything else. Because what can a person like that offer? Be ashamed of yourself and know your place as a stepping stone for better women. I mean, you're already used to that. That's what your life is, so you don't need to change much. But I want you to be aware of what you are. Both because of my disdain of you, and also because if this is where, or is this some Anton Chigurh shit? If the rule you followed led you to this, of what use was the rule? This is your modus operandi, the peak of your way of doing things, leads you to the outcome of being a stepping stone for bad bitches. I'm embarrassed for you. I don't want you to live this way. I'm thankful you live this way because you're useful, but it's such a low, sad level. I feel bad knowing anyone feels that, lives that, because I'm such an empathetic person. You suck so bad. I want you to be better so I don't have to look at that. It makes me uncomfortable knowing that exists in the world. It's really frustrating being a man and liking women. I'll probably get back active in size communities. I stayed out of them or at least the talking ones, for a long time. Because while size, for the most part, is a non-controversial community, for the most part, it's a community I don't feel bad about being in or being blooded with. But the most talkative people tend to be the fucking dumbest ones that you feel embarrassed to be associated with. So I stayed out of them, but fuck it, we'll go back in. I'll start poking around for sub-matched YouTube channels. It is so depressing liking women and wanting the best in women and for women, and then things needing to be this way. We'll get used to it, but it is just sad. But like I said, I'm not give up guy. I'm not letting life play me like this. I wasted a lot of time for no reason. I wasted time thinking I was elevating, and in a lot of ways I was, but not where I needed to elevate, because I started at the highest peak. It's been a descent in the woman fashion up to now. I hate that the only way to get what you want out of life is to be the worst in all spheres. But I think we'll cut it here because my voice is dying on me. I don't know what we'll talk about next. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.